everyone, and welcome back to the journey of my YouTube channel, and welcome back to my series on surprisingly good Christian art slash art made by Christians slash art involving Christian themes, where I explore books, movies, TV shows, as I did last time, or whatever that is better than the stereotype of Christian art. And today I'm talking again about The Star That Always Stays by Anna Rose Johnson, which is not a Christian book per se. It is published by a secular publisher, which I think is pretty cool actually, because it does include several Christian elements. It even includes quotes from the Bible, which is really neat to see. And I think Anna Rose did a great job of integrating those things in her story without it feeling like she was forcing them in or like it overpowered the story in any way. I think The Star That Always Stays is a great example of a story that uses biblical quotes and Christian elements really effectively without that just taking over every other aspect of the story, so that it feels like the story only exists to deliver these quotes and messages. And full disclosure, I'm going to be mostly working off of the review that I wrote for Amazon and Goodreads, but I'll also be explaining some more background and specifically focusing on this aspect of The Star That Always Stays being a book that includes Christian elements but is better than the stereotypes. And in fact, the very title of the book, Anna Rose has explained, The Star That Always Stays, is actually in some ways a reference to God, and it has other significance in the story too. It's a pretty cool title because it has several layers of significance, but even the title itself is Christian in a way, so that is pretty cool. The book has this great opening where Norvia is on Beaver Island listening to her grandfather tell these mythical stories about their Ojibwe ancestors. So I love that opening to the book. That made it feel kind of magical, which I appreciated because I'm used to reading fantasy and this isn't fantasy. So I was like, okay, I feel at home here. But I really loved how The Star That Always Stays incorporated that history and those perspectives. Just from a writing craft side on the plot, I usually read pretty plot heavy books. I like a lot of action, but I was never bored during The Star That Always Stays, even though it's a more character-focused, quiet, a little bit slower-paced book. But even though the pacing is a little bit slower, it still progresses pretty steadily, which was very helpful for me. There was plenty of emotional and relational tension that kept me flipping the pages. I wanted to know what was going to happen to Norvia and to her family, and I cared what was going to happen next. And there were always things happening next. I never felt like the story just stopped and had a long section of only character development. The story takes place over the course of about a year, and kind of similar to something like Meet Me in St. Louis, or a lot of other stories do this too, but it really uses the progression of the year and the seasons and the holidays to mark time, and I thought that was a really smart literary device to make the story feel like it kept moving and like there was progress and we were moving towards something. So that really helped me, as someone who's used to having more plot, enjoy this book, even though it was a little bit lighter on the plot, the external action. And Norvia also has these flashbacks to living on Beaver Island interspersed throughout the book, which I really liked. I thought that helped with the pacing too, helped make it feel consistently interesting, and it kept reawakening my interest if it felt like, we've been in this setting for a while and maybe not a whole lot has changed for a while, although I didn't feel like that very much. But the flashbacks were a helpful way to just keep me really engaged and really enjoying where we were with the story. So characters. Overall, I really enjoyed Norvia as a main character. I empathized with what she went through. She was missing her dad. She was moving to a new and very different community. She was feeling alone. She felt like she didn't have the ability to make anything better. I sympathized a little bit less with her desire to be a popular heroine. I didn't relate with that as much. It felt more like some teenage drama, which maybe when I was 14 I was very much like that. But my favorite aspects of Norvia were how she related with her family and how she really wanted to help them, and her struggle of feeling like nothing that she was doing was working. So that felt very relatable. There were other characters that I loved too, though. Whenever I talk about this book, I always talk about Dicta because she's my favorite. She's Norvia's 8-year-old sister, and she actually sounds like an 8-year-old, which is a really rare thing for me to find in books, where the kids actually sound like kids, because they tend to either sound way too smart and capable for their age, or they sound like babies, even though they should be able to do a lot more than they are doing. But Dicta is both really smart and really childlike in her just lack of experience with the world and her lack of consideration for what we might consider social norms. She absolutely cracks me up. She's great. Vernon is great, Norvia's stepbrother. There are so many layers to him that I didn't expect at first. He made me laugh with his delicate digestion, but then he turns out to be a lot more than we thought, and he is actually one of the characters who shares at least one Bible quote with Norvia, maybe more, and I really liked how that was done, where Vernon is very far from the perfect kid who knows exactly when to deliver exactly the right Bible verse, where he at first sometimes maybe seems annoying or like he's kind of stuck up, but then the more we learn about him, the more we come to really like him and care about him. And then when he does share a Bible verse, it's not in this very, I know exactly what I'm doing kind of way. It's, I don't really know how to help you. I don't know if I'm phrasing this correctly, but here's something that's encouraged me, so I want to share it with you because I think it might be helpful for you too. So I really liked how he was done. Another one of my favorite characters is Uncle Virgil, or Norvia's stepdad, who's another character who at first seems like you wouldn't get very much good biblical advice from him necessarily. But then, I don't want to get into spoilers, but there's also a lot more to him than you would think at first. And it's very interesting how Anna Rose handles situations like, Uncle Virgil is a stepdad, and what that means at his church, and how the rest of the community, and specifically the church community, views this family is really interesting to see. Which kind of leads me into like the thematic issues that the story deals with, and just the kind of hard topics that it touches on, because Norvia's parents are divorced, which is maybe not something that we would see in a whole lot of Christian books written for kids. A lot of them try really hard to kind of model the ideal family, which definitely has a lot of value too, but I appreciated how Anna Rose was willing to honestly and carefully depict a family that was going through this hard thing without making it simple. It's still very thought-provoking for me, like, well, did her mom do the right thing? And was her dad really bad? How bad was he? It just isn't very easy, because that's the way that real life works. And Anna Rose handled that with a lot of honesty. I related a lot to Norvia's feelings going through that, even though I've never been in a situation like that. It really reminded me of my grandfather, because he was in a situation like that, just a couple of decades after Norvia's time. His parents were also separated, and like Norvia, he was a different ethnicity from the people around him. He had been born in Germany, and so there was a lot of stigma against that. And in Norvia's case is that she's Ojibwe, and there's a lot of stigma against that, which is another topic that not a whole lot of Christian books cover, and The Star That Always Stays just did a really good job of being honest about that. And I always felt like the way Norvia's emotions and reactions were depicted just felt so real, and I felt like, oh man, if I were in this situation, yeah, that's how I would feel about this. Like, that's how I would respond to this. She just stays so human in the middle of it all. She's not portrayed as this total victim who is passive and has nothing that she could have done about anything, but she also is just a little girl who is kind of caught up in the middle of this, and so many of the things going on around her are not her fault and not within her control, and she has to learn how to balance that and how to figure out what she can do to help, and where she needs to accept things and where she needs to push for change. So it's a really interesting journey to follow her on, and I really appreciated that Anna Rose didn't shy away from any of the hard parts of any of those things. She just jumped right in and dealt with them head on, and I think that made the story really strong. So this is a middle grade book technically, and I think it would be really good for the middle grade ages 8 to 12 to 14, like Norvia's age, but I also enjoyed it a lot myself. I think adults will enjoy this too. There is enough content there, there's enough substance in depth that I think adults will really enjoy it too, and it's a book that is already getting lots of acclaim and awards and positive reviews and reviews from places like Kirkus Reviews and Publishers Weekly and Booklist and all of these special important places, and I'm not surprised. It deserves it. It's pretty cool, and I think all of you should try reading it. And if you're interested in helping Anna Rose succeed with this book, which would also help the entire writing community that we are in together, the Author Conservatory, you can order it from your library. You can request that they order that book to have at the library. So I'll put instructions to do that down in the description. I'll also link to it on Amazon. It just came out this month, so you still have a chance to get it hot off the presses, and I would definitely recommend that you do that because this is one of my favorite books from this year so far. Definitely one of my favorite middle grade books from this year. Definitely one of my favorite non-fantasy books from this year, so I would recommend that you give that a try. Today's t-shirt of the week is my Moxie 2018 shirt, which is another Bible quizzing shirt. Moxie is a Bible quizzing team that I was on for 1 year, and we have our fantastic squirrel on the back. We call this design the Angry Pooh Bear squirrel for obvious reasons, I think. I don't think that needs explanation. I do have a little bit of a recent funny story about this shirt where I was going to be on a call for my business one day, and like I was picking out my clothes, and at first I was like, oh, I need to, wear a shirt that will look somewhat business-like on a call, but then I was like, nah, it's on Zoom. They could only see like up to here. It doesn't matter. Nobody can see it. So I wore my Moxie shirt anyway, but my laptop's camera was broken at the time, so I ended up using my phone as a camera and also my laptop for the keyboard. It was very weird. It was not a very fun setup, but because I was using my phone as a camera, people could see my whole shirt. So yeah, I was on this like kind of business-like call with my Moxie Tide Pods design in full view. So that was kind of funny. And I was talking about my business to some other people in a Zoom breakout room. And one of the other ladies was like, well, that's the right shirt for you. You do have Moxie. And I was like, oh, great. People not only saw it, they noticed it. But oh well, it was a positive comment that she made about it, so maybe it was okay. But yeah, I will remember to be more careful about my t-shirt selections next time in case I have to do something weird with my camera. Okay, that's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment to let me know what are your favorite Christian stories that are better than the stereotypes. And until I make videos about those, thanks for journeying with me. Bye.